Your host, Flap, and today we have a fantastic show lined up for you. Very excited for today's show. Not only do we have some great topics like we always do, but we've got some fantastic panel members and a new guest to the show that we've not had on the show before. So always exciting to have new people on the show. But before we get into any of that, I just want to quickly run through some of the topics that we've got for tonight's show because very excited for these. Chat, love to get you involved. We've got some great chat going on already. But so topic one, we thought we'd start off with talking about Game Pass, the rumoured 23 million subscribers to Game Pass and kind of what that means for Game Pass itself and Microsoft and a few things around that. Earlier in the week, we also had a teased or a leaked document between Capcom and PlayStation, which outlined some very surprising stipulations, shall we say, with regards some of the parity clauses and things like that. And we're going to be looking into that a little bit later. And also got another topic that's a little bit left field is kind of now the games consoles are as powerful as they are and probably comparable to some pretty beefy PCs. Should we really be expecting as console gamers now to be able to adjust some of the finer settings so we can actually squeeze some more frames per second out of these games and adjust some graphical fidelity and things like that? So we'll be having a good discussion about all of that. But before we do any of that, let's introduce our fantastic panel for tonight. So excited to have you. We've had this lined up for over a week now. Let's go alphabetically. That's how Discord seems to line us all up. Assassin Looper, welcome to the show. Second time, I believe. Is that correct? Fantastic. No, not a problem. Well, you're a busy lady now. You're a regular panel member on the Fun Speculation Ultimate podcast. How's that going? Mm. Lady AF. Exactly. Yeah, no, we've obviously had Mav on a few times, quite early on actually in our channel's kind of history, and on Pong Soul. Pong Soul was always in the chat. He always is in the chat, to be fair. And it took a long time before I kind of saw him on a podcast. But my God, is this podcasting career taken off? Um, yeah, it's fantastic. No? Excellent. I don't know if the guys in the chat can hear you. Chat, can you let us know we can't hear Assassin Looper? Oh, damn. I'm having so many problems tonight. Right. Okay, let's see if I can get this sorted. It's not going very well at all tonight, I've got to be honest. Desktop audio. Let's have a look here. Right, is that any better? Here we go. That's better. Sorry. You seem to be back in the room now, I believe. Is that correct? Can you talk? No, that doesn't seem to be working either. Okay. This is an absolute nightmare. Okie doke. Yeah. Pux, can you talk? Yeah, no. No, we don't seem to be able to hear you either. Let's see if I can go into Discord and get into. Let's have a look here. Let's try this. Is that better? Can you talk now?
Hello.
Oh, there we are. Chat, please let us know if you can hear us. Let's see what comes up.
No looper? Still no looper?
That might be delayed. Hopefully we can hear you. I can see your levels popping up now. Chat, let us know if you can hear us. You probably need to talk, one of you.
Hello?
Hello, chat, can you hear us?
Hello, chat. Please hear me.
Yeah, please
I've got
hear
so
us.
much to
Please hear
say.
us.
We have never had this problem
Still
before. What's
nothing.
going on?
No, we haven't.
Although, hold on, but people are saying yes as well.
Yes,
Right.
sorted.
Excellent.
My bro Daz says it's sorted.
Fantastic. Well, what a mess that was at the beginning of the show. I do apologise. Well, let's just quickly do your introduction again, Assassin Looper. No, well, you give us the same answers. No, I really appreciate you being here. And to be honest, it was a little bit of a last-minute rush. To be fair to us, we recently switched over to OBS, and it's a little bit fiddly. Discord doesn't always play ball nicely, as we found out towards the end of going live or getting live. And yeah, so sorry, Looper. Just quickly tell us about you being on Mav's show and kind of how that came about, actually.
Well, I've been on a few shows around. Yours was the first, obviously.
Oh, was it?
Disaster, and then originally, yeah, yours was on. I messed up on. Remember?
I think that was partly our fault as well, to be fair.
And then after that, I've been on a lot of podcasts, yeah, around and about. Stubbs Gaming. I was on Stubbs Cast on my own, which was real fun, and also Retro Renegades, lots of different podcasts. I can't obviously name them all right now. And yeah, I've had a lot of fun. I always was in Mav's stream, always chatting in his stream, and I knew Cosnsole, obviously, and I also knew Psychonauts. They're good friends of mine. And when Mav started up the podcast, it was him and his wife, Caitlin, who are awesome people. And then I believe it was 3-Bit, the VGHD. And he's a really nice chap too. And then Pong and me, Psychonauts, and then Lady. And we're the Magnificent Seven. And you can catch us at 9 p.m. Eastern, 2 a.m. British summertime, and on the Xbox Ultimate podcast. And we really do have some fun. We had Rand on last week, and Noobs and Pros from Twitch, who were really great fun. And then last night we did a Dead or Alive Code 6 tournament.
Oh, fantastic.
So we had some great fun there, and it was really good. And
well, we're trying to line up a tournament ourselves, GPG versus Fun Speculation, so we'll have to try and get that going. That would be pretty
know.
Cool. Yeah.
We know. Exactly. We're prepared. We will be slaughtered.
Fight and talk. Excellent.
No, excellent. I think if it's something like Halo, I'll wrap my hand in now. But hopefully, if it's something I can.
Yeah, hopefully it won't be Halo. I think we're a bit haloed out to win this
stuff. We're haloed out. Yeah, it has to be something different. Really good one, actually. Sniper Elite 4, fantastic game.
Yes, I like Sniper Elite.
I've played all the Sniper Elites, and that's a really good game. Anyway, moving on to your other guest. Yes, I'm really grateful to be here. It's been fantastic to be invited. Thank you so much, and I'm really looking forward to the discussions.
Yes, thank you for being here. Well, sorry everyone about all of this kerfuffle. Brand new to the show, probably not the best start we could have had, but please welcome to the show, Assemble. Thank you for being my friend. I watched your channel very early on, and I was always amazed at how low the sub count was at first, considering the very considering the very high quality production values that you were putting out. And thankfully, that's now starting to reverse quite quickly. Your channel's kind of exploding, isn't it? Tell us a little bit about your channel.
Well, thank you. Thanks for having me. I've been excited because we've been talking for quite some time, and we've been looking to get this going. So I am very excited. I'm excited to be able to talk Xbox with everybody. I've been on a giant Xbox kick as of late, so I'm excited with all the news and everything that's going on. But yeah, it's been great. I appreciate the support, and the channel is growing. It's just been fun to be able to dip my toe into YouTube, as well as just focusing on gaming, going through mostly the daily news coverage, and then even I say recently, but in the last week or so, just starting with streaming just a little bit and changing up the formula slightly, where going through more of the high level news pieces, and then breaking it out as well. So if I have a 1 hour stream on the latest Xbox news, for example, then breaking them out into the segments and going that route, which has been nice because I really am noticing that I'm enjoying the live chat and talking to the community live.
It's a
But yeah,
fantastic, and like today, as you will see the chat flowing, it's fantastic to have everyone in the chat. And I'm coming to you, chat, at some point, but let's finish up with the rest of the crew. But thank you for being assembled. Like I say, it's been a long time coming. Really looking forward to hear your take on some of these topics, and seeing your channel continue to grow. It's going to be fantastic.
Thank you.
Luke, well, that was a bit of a strange start to the show. Thank you for being here, my friend, part of the GPG crew. How are you doing?
I'm well, thank you. Yeah, very well. It's those technical issues are always annoying, but I'm glad we've got them sorted now.
Yeah, exactly.
Yes, very well. It's been a really interesting week. I think news-wise, there's been some cool stuff, some interesting stuff that's come out, and great panel today. Looking forward to having Looper and Assemble on as well. So yeah, let's go.
Fantastic, absolutely. Puxley, again, technical issues, but hopefully we've got them sorted now. It was there's an interface between Discord and OBS and YouTube Studio and all kinds of things, and I'm still getting my head around it. And you know what? This actually highlights just quite how simple and easy StreamYard actually is, and how it takes all of that pain away from you. But oh well, we live and learn. So how are you, Puxley? How's things?
Yeah, no, definitely. We're all getting there. So thanks to chat as well for letting us know and keeping us updated. Very much appreciate it. And yes, I'm doing very well, thank you. It's in terms of gaming this week, it's actually been quite interesting. I've actually been on another PlayStation binge because from Monday just gone, PlayStation's Play at Home initiative released Horizon Zero Dawn for free for PS4 and PS5 players. I'm playing on PS4, and I thought I'd jump in, seeing as it's free. Why not? I remember hearing really great things about it when it first came out. Never got around to playing it, and I've been having a really good time with it. It's kind of similar to Breath of the Wild in a way, and a few other kind of similar open worldy type games like Valhalla and a few others. I very much recommend it to those who have a PS4 or a PS5, and I think it's free to download forever. You don't need to be a PlayStation Plus subscriber or whatever it is. You can just download it for free and give it a go. I think it's until May 15th, I believe, or it's early May sometime, so you've got a good amount of time. But yeah, definitely, I recommend people try it out.
Yeah, I know a few people that actually haven't played that game and are currently trying, and they absolutely love it. So that's fantastic. But and as you may notice, we are unfortunately man down this evening. Scott's not able to be with us, unfortunately. He's a little bit poorly at the moment, so we're sending him get well wishes. Get well soon, Scott. Hopefully you'll be back fit and fighting again very soon. So we're 5 strong tonight. And chat, thank you very much, chat. Thank you for your understanding with the technical difficulties and stuff. Got some great names in there already. Let's just do a quick roll call. Wakanda XNT, UK Dazarus, Dragon Wolf, Boardman Gamer, the usual crew, Myseko, Invader Gaming. Thank you all for being here. It's absolutely brilliant. Well, let's crack on, and we'll go in order. So we'll probably come to you first if that's okay, Assassin. But yeah, it was obviously. I think it's fair to say it was rumoured earlier this week by Jez Corden that Game Pass has surpassed 23 million users, which is quite an incredible number. I don't know how long it will be before Microsoft sort of actually confirm this, but I think you're looking at the trajectory of when they did last confirm it 23 million kind of feels about right. But just wondering what your take on this. Why don't you think that number's actually higher, Looper? Because every podcast you've ever heard actually says it's such a fantastic value, it's the best thing to happen in gaming for a long time, and I know not everyone shares that view, but why do you think that number isn't actually higher at the moment? Do you think there's still an element of mistrust around Game Pass and what it's going to be and what it could sort of evolve into?
I think that 23 million is pretty good for your hardcore gamers and your just above casual gamers. And I think that, yeah, there is a slight mistrust still about, not about Game Pass, but about all subscription based movies as well. And I think music also, I think that when the casual gamers start to realize that they can purchase a Series S and Game Pass for less than £270, they're going to be like, wow, I can actually get one for both the kids or for all 3 kids. Or, they're going to be surprised. And what you get for that value is outstanding. I mean, yes, you've got your people that will knock it and the people that will always be down about it and try and make you not like it. It's who you listen to and who you see also using it, that you understand that it is the most amazing value for gaming ever. And you've got approximately 300 games to choose from. That's going to keep any child happy.
Oh,
And
absolutely.
I think and even teenagers and adults, I think it's a fantastic value. 23 million sounds about good. I said it'd be 30 million before the holidays, and I think it still will be 30 million before the holidays.
I
I
think it's
think
certainly on track
people,
for that, isn't it?
it definitely. And I have sons, and two of my sons have turned to Xbox and turned away from PlayStation.
Oh,
Not that that's an issue, but
Hmm.
they had to sell their PlayStations to afford an Xbox, and that's
Mhm.
fair enough. They both came to me and asked me, "What the hell is this Game Pass? What's going on? I'm bored with PS." And I went, "Right, okay." Well, 2 hours later, after giving them all the information,
Hmm.
they've purchased Series S's for now, and they are in heaven.
So is it fair to say
So
that is the Game Pass message still not quite out there for everyone? Then do you think?
I don't think it's out there for everyone. No, I have friends who have children, and when they hear about it, they're like, "Oh my goodness!" And then they're like, "Well, I've got 4 children, 3 of whom play games. Oh my goodness, I need to go and sort this out." And they do, and it's cheaper in the long run than Nintendo, even because with Nintendo you have to purchase the games at 60, 70 pounds, dollars, 50 pounds, whatever, and so they've got at their fingertips all these games that keep their children happy, and then they can play in the evening when the children have gone to bed. So they're also, I mean, I must have told 20, 30 people, and all those people are now registered to Game Pass,
Hmm. It just seems a shame that you kind of
because
have
it
to
is such
word of
value.
mouth it. Yeah, exactly. But it's a
I
shame that you have to
think it
word of
needs
mouth it.
some advertising. Yeah, it needs advertising on the TV outside of gaming, because gaming is what we all do. So we see the news, we look at the news, we understand, we get it, yeah.
Hmm.
But then people, like some of my friends, they work, they look after their home, they look after their children, so, and as Daz says, he needs a race pass for
Yeah, I
Game
saw that.
Pass. I completely agree. We definitely need a kart racer in there for sure. But I think all this will come, and I think people's minds is going to be blown with what is coming to Game Pass and what will come to Game Pass.
Well,
I
that
think people are going to be completely
yeah,
surprised.
that's the sport
But
for any Xbox fan, isn't it? Guessing what's coming next, I
yeah,
guess.
exactly. But yeah, I've got so many people that come to me and ask me about it. They don't know about it. It's me telling them about it.
Hmm.
And I think that if it was in mainstream advertising other than mainly gaming advertising, I think you'll find, like, put it in the movies, put it in on billboards, put it on the TV, and I think you'll find an awful lot more people will join. Especially, as I say, I think it's fantastic value for people with children.
Yeah, no, absolutely. I've got daughters that play on the Xbox and stuff, and like you say,
Mm,
just for that one fee, they've got loads and many hours of entertainment.
yeah.
Assemble. Let's come to you. I mean, I don't think Xbox. Well, I think PlayStation's probably slightly better, but when it comes to pushing the adverts and stuff on the TV and billboards and stuff, they're not so hot in the UK. What's it like stateside? Is that pretty good? Would you say the Game Pass message is out there in the States?
I'd say the same as Lupa.
Oh, really?
I think that their mainstream advertising is not there. Now I am one that is streaming content all the time from
Hmm.
Amazon and Netflix and so on, but yeah, regular TV advertisements, I'd say it's minimal. The only times we see Xbox ads would be for their main titles when they release Forza, Halo, Gears, things like that. I don't think that their messaging is out there v- very broadly. I think that it is still within the niche of the hardcore early adopters, which is all of us. It feels like it's everywhere, but that could also be because we are all within this bubble talking to each other about it. So we all consume it and consuming similar things. We all have Game Pass, but there's, like Lupa is saying, there's so many people out there that don't have it. The other thing to note too is what's interesting is so to your earlier question of do you feel that Game Pass is succeeding? Is it on its trajectory? Is it being successful, or is the number too high or too low for where it is? I think it's doing incredible job, because if I look at the Xbox Live numbers, Xbox Live subscribers are, life to date is around 100 million Xbox Live users, or people that are at least subscribing to the service. Maybe it's lapsed and they're still paying, but you have 100 million people in the wild that have subscribed to a gaming service through Xbox. Great. So now we're at 20 million on the Game Pass side. I think that if you're Phil Spencer and the team looking at this is a huge success, that 20% of your existing subscriber base is also subscribing to this potentially, or it's a combination of both. But I would look at it and say we're up to 20, and they are easily going to hit that 30. And I think a lot of it too is we should look at when those subscribers of Xbox Live and Gold lapse and they finally make their way over to Game Pass. I think it's a matter of time. And I also think it was interesting. I was on a podcast the other day, and one point that came up that I thought it's inevitable, but when Lupa's talking about family, and the kids have a Series S in the house, they each have one, there's multiple boxes. The one thing that Xbox hasn't launched yet, which will spike their numbers in my opinion, is getting a family plan for Game Pass. Because I think that a lot of us are worried that we don't want to see the price go up, or it's inevitable that Game Pass can't be at this $15-20 pound mark for forever. They can't sustain it. I think that once they launch a family offer of whatever, $39.99, $49.99, I don't know, but to offer multiple accounts all under one family like Apple does, it's going to jump those numbers, because they could be looking at it as more subscribers, or how many are under a family plan, and they're getting more revenue out of it. So I think it's great. I think that they're doing extremely well for a 3-year-old service of any kind for a subscription model.
It's not easy to get off the ground, is it, this kind of thing? And as we've discussed quite a few times on the show, obviously Microsoft have the infrastructure to do it, but they also seem to have they certainly have the financial clout, but they seem to have the inclination of what it constitutes a good deal and what will bring people to the service. I think they've done fantastic at kind of, guessing what will bring people to the service, and it's fantastic to see. Luke, Assemble mentioned about the 100th mil Xbox Live subscribers, but obviously it's wider than just that. We've got PC gamers that can buy into Game Pass. We've got mobile at the moment in terms of Android widespread. Obviously, I know the iOS kind of rolled out this week, invite only, but do you think iOS and mobile gaming will see a huge influx of new Game Pass subscribers?
Maybe longer term. I don't see that right now, because I think in that space, something like this is still quite niche. Not only is it probably quite niche, but I'm not sure how many use cases right now of people in that sphere want a service like this, which is obviously cloud based, which is the main thing, right? So I think definitely subscriptions will increase from as it rolls out to iOS, and and word of mouth gets around on Android more. PC is a difficult space in a way, which sounds odd, but PC gamers are more. Steam just dominates digital kind of consumption of games on that platform. To the point where there are people that will not subscribe to anything like this because they'll just want to go through Steam, because Steam's kind of become this kind of homogenized platform where if you game on PC, that's pretty much where you do all of your gaming. Obviously, there's more places now, but there's always annoyances, I think, on the PC side where you have to go to another platform on PC to get your games. So I think it's going to be a slower growing service there, although I'm sure it will do quite well. So I think like in terms of that number, I think that's a really good number for a lot of reasons. But I think one of the biggest reasons that's a really good number is we've not really seen any of the big draws to that service hit yet. You know, by the time you have Halo coming out, for example, you'll see these weird. I imagine they're kind of you know, graphs and charts that analyze the data that comes in from concurrent subscriptions and stuff will look kind of tick shaped a lot of the time, or kind of steady and then huge bumps, because they will invariably, that's going to happen as Halo comes in, you have a mass influx of subscribers, and maybe out of that you don't retain all of them, but you'll retain a significant proportion, and then you'll keep going until the next one. Say Starfield comes out as well, that will be another trigger, right? So I think it's a really impressive number, given all of that, and given also, as Looper and Assemble have rightly said, Microsoft don't seem to be that concerned at the moment, or that focused on advertising this to casuals en masse, even non-gamers, right? It's mostly just in the hardcore sphere that they're targeting at the moment, and it's a similar kind of ish strategy to what Netflix did, where when Netflix came out, it wasn't, or at least when it developed into the kind of service it is now, there wasn't a big mass. It was a very steady kind of increase of users as word of mouth got round, and as people who were particularly interested in consuming movies through a digital space kind of got into that. So the same thing's happening here, right? It's your hardcore base that you can easily say to them, and they'll understand the concept almost immediately and be very happy that they can save a load of money on it. And then slowly they'll start kind of building it out. I would hope anyway, to your kind of TV ads, your movie ads, etc., etc. And as Assemble said, which is a very good point, adding kind of family subscription packages like you have on other services, because that will entice even more people in. So I think they should be really proud of what they've done, really, from from the ground level to get 23 million concurrent subscribers is pretty impressive, especially considering they haven't had their big games hit, right? Their huge AAAs hit that service yet. To be in that position now is really impressive.
Luke, I think that, just to piggyback off that too, I think you're right, where when Halo, I think, kicks off the holiday season for Xbox, I think that's where all the marketing will come in from Xbox to just brand it and market it as brand new Halo game on Xbox Game Pass. And they will meld those two together so that they're completely intertwined. It will no longer ever be, it's an Xbox game, it's a Game Pass title. How do I get Halo? Well, you pay a subscription for $15 and you have Halo. A general, like the chat is talking about, it's like it hasn't reached the general wide audience, casual gamers. I think that, but the more casual gamer knows and can identify Halo as a game, and they can identify Halo with Xbox, they can connect that then when they just see a splash of only on Game Pass. Sorry, Flap, go ahead.
Yeah, no, that makes total sense. And to be honest, it does feel like they're holding back a little bit on the marketing, because if you're chucking $7.5 billion down on the table for Bethesda, and God knows what other deals they've done behind the scenes, to get Outriders and things like that. This is big bucks stuff. And like you say, it does seem like they haven't pushed it yet. But, perhaps they are waiting for it to land on iOS fully. And we'll come back to that, actually, the iOS. I had a chance to have a go on iOS. I don't own an Apple product, but I know someone who does, and I was having a bit of a go on that. It's pretty cool, actually, how they've done it, and it's a bit cheeky. It will be interesting to see if Apple allow it going forward, but that's a different topic. So it does make you wonder if they're kind of waiting a little bit before they have this real big push, and perhaps Halo and it all kind of coming together on iOS and streaming in web browsers is the sort of big push, the thing that they're waiting for. But Pux, was you a little bit dubious of Game Pass at first? Because I've seen in the chat a little bit, and perhaps we'll read out some of the chat while we're here, that some of the chat kind of didn't know what it was, and perhaps people are a little bit suspicious of it. Is that kind of where you were? Because you came sort of from PlayStation, didn't you?
Yeah, very similar. So I suppose just a quick very quick history. Yeah, last gen I was very much PS4. Love the platform. Always enjoy watching the Xbox E3s, and I remember seeing Game Pass. I think it was 2017, I believe, when they first announced Game Pass as a concept coming to console. And it wasn't until E3 of 2018 or 2019, whenever it was. I can't quite remember. 2018, sorry, when they announced that Game Pass was coming to PC. It might be 2019, so I can't remember the year. But I just finished building my first gaming rig, and just saw this being advertised, and I was a bit dubious. But fortunately, at least for me on PC, that's when it was £1 for the first month. Then it was $3.99 recurring all the way through the beta until obviously now, as of August last year, it then went up to the base price across all services of $7.99. So all that time, I thought, it's cheap enough for me to at least give it a go. So at the time, I was enjoying, I think it was Crackdown 3, Sea of Thieves, one of the Wolfenstein games, I believe, one of the older Doom titles, I think, was on there at the time. And I was quite dubious as to, does this actually work how I think it works? How people are telling me it works? Like, I really can just download and play games however much I want, when I want, kind of thing. And again, because it was cheap enough to enter on PC at that point in time, that's when I tried it out, and I couldn't quite believe what was going on. I had about 3 or 4 games on the go at this point, and I hadn't paid a penny for them. At least at that point, I always saw it as how much this has cost me throughout the year. So of course, $3.99, it was just short of 50 quid or whatever else. And in my mind, I'm thinking I've made my money back just by playing 1.5 games, and I've already played about 4. If I was to buy these full price, of course, from a store. So that was when it kind of really hit for me, and that's when it really then stuck in. And it wasn't until September, I think it was of that year, when I tried out Ultimate, at least at the time, so I could try the Gears 5 demo, Gears 5 early, sorry. I did then go back to the base one for a period of time, because Ultimate didn't have any benefits as a PC gamer at that period. But then, roll on when xCloud came out, I then subscribed to Ultimate at that point in time, because I then knew that 2 months later, when the Series X and S was going to be released, that I was going to try and get one. So by that point, I was already sold, and I was very happy to try xCloud and happy to join Ultimate at that point in time. And yeah, so long story short, I should say, I mean, once I did step on, and it then really sinks in that, holy cow, I'm paying a relatively minimal cost to be playing all of these titles worth hundreds of pounds or dollars, as a total. So yeah, that's what drew me in. I say once you do experience it, you then realize how great it is. But I can understand from a more casual standpoint that if you're just being told that it's the Netflix of gaming, I imagine a lot of people don't. It doesn't quite tell the full message, does it? I don't think, because it's quite easy to think of something like Netflix as you just consume and that's it. Whereas obviously with gaming, there's more to it. You're interacting with it. Things last longer, and of course, the biggest obviously selling point is that all first party titles are on their day one. You don't have to ever buy these. So that's what I think is the most amazing of all, and I think that's also what makes it more unbelievable to more casuals who maybe just can't quite grasp that. Yes, you can play a brand new first party title day one.
Yeah, no, I absolutely agree. And like I say, perhaps there's still some way to go then before Xbox actually get that full marketing out there. But, I personally think getting it on iOS, it will be a big step forwards potentially. Is anyone...
So I was just going to add to that when you say about iOS, because I was actually lucky enough to get an invite to try out the Windows 10
nice.
cloud gaming experience. And that's actually through the browser. It's not through the Xbox app or anything. Yeah. I could just do it through Chrome. And it performed very well, actually. I mean, I played, the only game I tested at that time that I had time for was quite heavy. It was a GTA 5, which I actually tried on my phone at first. And even then, even on a good connection, I was getting a bit, quite a lot of frame skip and all that kind of stuff, because it's just, streaming so much, I guess. But on PC, it did perform a lot better. There is a bit of input lag, but again, it's a heavy game. So bearing in mind, obviously, you've got the latency to the servers, processing it all, then sending it back to you. Whereas I've tried a few indie games as well, and they run absolutely fine. Like, you could easily play smaller, less timing critical titles through it, and it's just fantastic.
Oh, that's really cool. I didn't know you had that invite.
Yeah, I got it on, I think it was Thursday evening or Friday morning I got it. So not very long at all. So I'm probably going to be trying out throughout the week. So I can definitely let everyone know how it all goes.
Fantastic. Where are we in the chat? I know there's been some chat coming.
I've got quite a few things saved here. I'll start going through them. So first one I've got here is from Matt Diet, who says, about the 23 million sub count for Game Pass, it annoys me with the people on the PlayStation side claiming it's a cumulative number to throw shade, not understanding that it's concurrent members. What kind of Xbox news today? It's value for money, and with the current climate, it's amazing. The Game Pass message is still bad, as I still think Xbox need to work harder on advertising.
Yeah.
Pixel Slapper, when Halo drops, they'll advertise Game Pass a lot more, in my opinion. UK Dazarus says, yes, definitely need advertising on TV for non-gaming educated parents.
Yeah, that's a good point. Yeah.
Yep. What else have we got? I put this. I stored this one because I thought there's an interesting side to it. So UK Devs also said that they should advertise on all the stupid soaps that people watch. Lol. And I found it's interesting because my partner watches like Korean dramas on Netflix. And for those who maybe don't know, like in Korean dramas and stuff, they throw out like advertisements as part of the show, so it doesn't stop. Like there's just really well done product placement everywhere. So I'm just wondering if a character could be solving a crime scene and then just see a Game Pass sticker on the wall or something like that.
I think it might be a long time. It might be a long time before you see Game Pass mentioned in EastEnders or something. Yeah,
that'll be the day. Comment here from Broadband Gamer, who says, I was always a PlayStation gamer and I knew Game Pass existed, but didn't know anything about it. My nephew showed me Game Pass and I instantly got rid of my PlayStation PS4 Pro and got an Xbox One and signed up. Wakanda Rex was today again says, for someone like myself who games on console and PC, reads a lot and does not watch TV, they need to come up with a mass advertisement that reaches TV watchers to bus shelters and other kind of sites. Ballman Gamer again, not only is it value for gaming, but if you don't have much spare income, it's a cheap way of playing and trying out games for a low cost. And I'm sure there are still pounds for a month just to try out. Conrad's was today again. I would say it's as bad as around 80% of casuals that do not know anything about Game Pass or don't have the facts. And last one here, again from Ballman Gamer, who says, that was my issue. I just dismissed it until I was shown Game Pass. Been on Xbox from that day. This gen, I've picked up a Series X and I love it.
Excellent. Well, that's good to know. In fact, Tavish Hill's just put in the comments that actually it's 22 million, not 23. I think Jez corrected himself. Fair point, but still an impressive number. What's 1 million between Xbox games?
Exactly.
So, no, Lupa, let's come to you.
Yeah,
no, go on.
Can I just jump in with something? Also, you don't ever have to pay for Game Pass like me. I've never paid for it apart from the original £1.
Now, that's interesting you say that. So are you going through the reward system to get your Game Pass? Right.
They sometimes put at the moment it's £1 month of Game Pass Ultimate for 12,000 points. Sometimes they bung in there a 3-month for 35, so it's cheaper. But it's either 140,000 points a year or 144,000 points a year, and depending on which one you get at the time. But you can always pick up a month and hope the 3-month comes in a bit later on. Yeah, that's what I do every year, and I never pay for a Game Pass Ultimate. So I've got PC, mobile, xCloud, and also Game Pass.
I know a few others. I know Wakanda XNT. He really gains the reward system. Is that something you've ever dabbled in, Assemble?
I have actually looked at the rewards more and more lately, because I have been hearing the same thing where people are like, "Oh, I just use my rewards or build them up and get a month of Game Pass." So, yeah, it's actually, and the reward systems itself for what you need to do, it's as simple. Some stuff is as simple and silly as just open up the browser or add an extension, and then you're gonna get so many points just by doing silly little things. But yeah, it's a good incentive, but again, it's very hidden to even people that are more in the know of it. It's like, oh, I haven't tried that yet, and it's on your console, so it's not as discoverable or as pushed by Xbox. But it's a great way. If you were like, I am trying to not have to pay for this thing, you can do it. Lupa's right. You can totally do it.
And that's the thing, isn't it? I mean, not only is it amazing, you can actually get it essentially for free.
Yeah. And it's just like, if you want, there is a computer, like a web page that you can go to that does all of it for you, apart from, I think, the Game Quests.
Oh, is there?
Part.
Oh, wow.
Yeah. But I can't remember the name of it off the top of my head, because just for a 10-minute break, just chilling, I don't mind doing it myself. But there is also Indie Game will tell you that you can, I think it's shop 2, something like that, that you can go and you can pick up for £17. I know that somebody else told me, Psychonauts told me that you can get 5 months worth of 14-day codes from a company for like $5 or something.
Wow.
And there's also this one that Indy told me about that you go to and you can pick it up for £20 and you get, I think it's a month or 2 months, 3 months. Sorry, I can't remember what he said now because my brain doesn't withhold the information that long. But yeah, he did tell me.
No, that's
So
pretty fantastic.
Ask Indie Gamer in the chat. He definitely knows somewhere.
Yeah, I think that one is you can buy a year's subscription of EA Play for the Xbox.
That's it, and then you swap it. That's it. I remember.
And then if you redeem it, it automatically converts to I think 4 months or 3 months of. I think it's 4 months. Actually.
4 months. Yeah,
of Game Pass. So
is that a loophole they've accidentally left open? Do you think, or are they quite happy for that to be the case?
No, yeah, they're happy. It says when you actually, because I've done this. It says when you pick it up, it tells you that your Play subscription on the Xbox itself on the store, it tells you your EA Play subscription is going to be converted into X amount of months of Game Pass. So you're happy to do that. So it's all built in, and they know that's going on. And maybe they'll phase it out at some point, but for now it's
and
fine.
UK Dazarus says the rewards automator, I use it every day. The rewards automator.
Okay.
And Wakanda News says that it's myaniba.com.
Yes, he's actually put a link in the chat. Wow. Okay, we'll definitely check that. It feels like cheating, doesn't it? But yeah,
it's not. Xbox knows about it.
Exactly. But it still feels, not only is the best deal in gaming fantastically awesome, you can get it for nothing, and it's just you can get it for just clicking the right link and playing certain games, and it's brilliant.
And the fact that you can buy those games at a discount. If there's a game that you really, really love, you then get 20% off or 10% off or 15% off. I mean, that's also awesome for people that want their physical copies or they want to own the game.
Now, that's a good point, and I don't know the answer to this. So this is on the screen now, Deliver Us the Moon. Fantastic game, absolutely recommend it. And unfortunately, I was supposed to be playing this last week. I can't remember what I was playing last week. Something cropped up. Actually, I think it was Ori and the Blind Forest I was playing last week. It's unfortunately left Game Pass now. Does that 20% discount still apply, or does that disappear once it's left Game Pass?
It's in Game Pass.
I did kind of guess that might
be. It's only while it's in Game Pass.
So that's cool. And just at the end of this video, I've got a couple of Tunic videos as well. So anyone that hasn't played the demo of Tunic, you haven't got long left actually. But great little game.
I've been playing Hollow Knight and got lost in it, and even nearly missed my own Xbox podcast.
I believe it's at the end of today. Might be tomorrow at the latest. I think it's PC only as well.
I think it's tomorrow. End of tomorrow.
Is it tomorrow?
Oh, is it PC only?
Yes, on Steam.
Yes, it's Steam at the moment.
But I wonder why I hadn't seen it on Xbox.
Yeah. Well, it's quite encouraging because hopefully there might be a demo coming to Xbox. But I can confirm it's a brilliant game. I think people will absolutely love it.
It's one I've been waiting for desperately.
Well, hopefully, how long have we got left on this video? We're about halfway through this one. Tunic will pop up again. I can stick that back on. Chat, thank you very much. Fantastic chat tonight. It's always great to see so many familiar names and faces, and even new names and faces in there as well. We've got a competition. So we are, funny enough, talking about Game Pass. We are giving away 1 month's Game Pass Ultimate to one lucky person in the chat. If you're not in the chat, get involved in the chat now. One very simple question. We just need some numbers out of you. We need you to guess what all of the panel's accumulative Game Pass game score is. So if you can put some numbers in there, whoever gets the closest, we will give you 1 month's worth of Game Pass Ultimate free. Thank you to Wakanda XNT for donating that to us as well. Absolutely fantastic. But get some guessing. So yeah, all 5 of our combined gamer scores. Let us know what you think it is. Whoever gets the closest gets 1 month of Game Pass Ultimate. Brilliant. Okay, let's come to the panel
Don't give
again.
it too long, they'll start putting the Xbox on.
I was going to say, I think Assemble might be the... Yeah, I suppose they might look him up. What's your gamer tag, Assemble? Or shouldn't we ask? They might go and do some scanning.
Go
Yeah,
and check.
yeah. Let's go. Let's give them the next minute to do that. That's a good point.
Give me the minute.
Just a minute.
PlayStation dropped some news this week as well, and I know some people were kind of sort of scoffing at it at first, but to me it actually seemed like quite a good deal. They announced they were going to do Video Pass. Now I know it's localized to Poland at the moment. Perhaps we'll come to you first with this one, Luke, if that's okay. To me it seems like PlayStation actually playing to their strengths, because obviously they've got a huge presence in the film industry, as we know. And as people were saying, anything that adds value to PS Now is obviously a good thing. What did you make of it? Do you think there's potentially a Disney Plus from Sony coming inbound that they will actually bundle with PS Plus, or do you think that's just something that's going to be kept separate in the long run?
I think that. So first of all, I quite like the idea. And I think, as you say, anything that adds value to your existing subscription, is good by me. It doesn't necessarily matter what that is. Obviously, hopefully it's something that you use, and I'd certainly use something like that. I'd definitely reap some benefit from it. I think whether Sony themselves will do something like Disney Plus, I don't know. I don't know if they quite have the gamut of content to be able to pull that off in the same way and to justify a full subscription for it. They certainly do have a pretty hefty backlog of stuff, but whether they would do that, I don't know. If they did, then yeah, I could absolutely see them, bundling that in with PS Plus, because I think at the moment, if it doesn't look like Sony right this minute, or should I say PlayStation, are interested in doing a one-to-one equivalent to Game Pass. What I think they want to do for the time being is just add as much value as possible. And you've seen that through PS Plus, with the free games, some of which have been brand new releases. You're seeing that through the Video Pass stuff, PS Plus collection, all of that kind of auxiliary stuff around the ecosystem. And I think they will continue to do that. And they may at some point, introduce some subscription where you get PS Now in it, for example, as a kind of a highest tier of PS Plus. And then we'll see. But I mean, the Video Pass stuff I really like. It's they do have some stuff that I'd be happy to have available where I could watch it over and over again and not pay for it. So I think it's pretty cool. I hope they bring it to more markets. It's obviously not intended. Jim Ryan's not sat there thinking this is our big Game Pass counter or big Game Pass equivalent or anything like that. But it's just a nice cool feature that I'd make use of.
Yeah, that's an interesting point. And to be honest, I mean, you and Pucks both have PS Now, I'm guessing. So, you would be users and benefit from that service. Pucks, is that something you think would actually, I'm guessing that it, like you said, Luke, they're not going to go toe to toe with Microsoft on Game Pass. I think they would. I don't think they could, if I'm honest. I think we're slightly beyond that. I know they've got some fantastic first party, but. Yeah, is that something you'd be interested in, Pucks? Do you think that actually adds value to PS Now? Is that going to, I'm guessing it's not going to increase their numbers because of this, is it?
Sorry, you're referring to having a video service on PS Now? Sorry.
Yeah.
I think it's definitely a good deal. I mean, I think
isn't it?
anything like that which adds content for no extra cost, I think is always a great addition to value for the consumer. I just don't know. Is it on PS Now or PS Plus? I thought it was on PS Plus, wasn't it?
Yeah, sorry, PS Plus. Yeah.
Yeah. Well, again, it definitely adds value for those that do love watching, that kind of media on their console. For me, not so much. I mean, I don't actually subscribe to PlayStation Now because I don't really play multiplayer much on games. I do PlayStation Plus. Sorry, I do dabble in PlayStation Now time and again, just to maybe play some PS3 games, only for maybe a month's worth. I don't subscribe every month or anything like that, but I've dabbled in it. But it definitely adds value. but I just don't know if there's many people playing a PlayStation who are going to turn on a PlayStation for the sole purpose of watching media. I only say that though because, at least from my perspective, I'm aware that there's also a lot of people in the world that own, Amazon Prime subscriptions, Netflix, in some places like the States where they have extra services like Hulu and a number of others as well, which obviously we don't have here. I'm just not. I just feel like it's almost a competition. But at the same time, on the other side of the coin, there are of course a number of younger players who have a PlayStation 4 or 5 in their bedrooms who don't have the money to pay for any extra services because kids don't really younger kids obviously don't work and can't earn money easily to support it, as we all know. So it definitely has value and content. I just don't know if it's as big a deal as what maybe people were maybe expecting. But then at the same time, I do kind of see this as a starting point for what PlayStation have to offer. Sony owning their own movies division. So as we all know, I think they've got a lot of content there ready to put on the service. I think, and they can get a lot of value added very quickly to the service. Just looking at the back catalogue of Sony films which have been created.
Yeah, no, completely, and it's all value add, isn't it? Like you say, I'm guessing it's not going to drag in loads of extra subscribers, but it might help to keep some of the ones that are already currently there, and like you say, just bolster that service. But it comes as a bit of a surprise, but it does seem like Sony playing to their strengths, like you say, in the film division and stuff. So that's all pretty cool. Well, wow, we kind of had a bit of a round table on that one. Really grateful for that. That's pretty cool. Correction, you get 22 million user base for Game Pass, but still a fantastic number. Yeah, it's really interesting to see where it's going to go in the future. But with that, let's move on to topic 2. Actually, before we do, we actually have a winner. And the combined score that we actually have as a panel is... Oh, hang on, where's it gone? 333,450. So 333,450 UK Dazrus. Well done, my friend. I will ping you the code after the show. Check your DMs on Twitter. Yeah, that's our combined gamer score. We used to do it. We said how many subs we had, didn't we? Whoever posted that number in the chat actually won. But yeah, we're up to nearly 800 subs now, so that's pretty cool. Let's move on to topic 2 then. So, and we'll come to you last if you don't mind, Luke, for obvious reasons. But and we'll come to you first, perhaps, Assassin. So earlier in the week there was a leaked document. A seemingly leaked document between Capcom and PlayStation, which outlined some stipulations of the exclusivity deal that they have with Resident Evil Village. And I know it threw up a frenzy on Twitter about unfair sort of and dirty tactics and things like that. Now, Luke is a legal expert, shall we say, or professional at the very least, and will be able to assist us with how these sort of documents tend to be written. But what was your initial impression when that first landed? Was it one of surprise and sort of disgust at Sony, I guess, at first, or was it sort of a practice that you thought kind of happened anyway?
No, I think that's disgusting. To eliminate certain gamers from a game, but using money, to me, is just disgraceful, and I don't like it. Having talked about this on a couple of other podcasts, it's 7 pages of intricate stuff, and I can't see that somebody would have taken the time to forge that to make it a fake so that everybody gets all upset. So I seriously think it's probably true. And where Sony were cleverer than Capcom is that 7-year bit in there. And I'm just appalled, actually appalled. They keep Spider-Man away from Xbox gamers. That basically, along with the bad things that went on with Avengers, it basically dunked it, and because they're losing immediately half of the gamers, say, in the world that won't play because they can't play a Spider-Man.
But I guess Microsoft could be accused of the same with the Bethesda deal as well, I guess, though, couldn't they?
No, I don't think so, because Xbox are going to honour what is already on PlayStation, what PlayStation guys play. They're going to honour that. They're not going to limit it. They're only going to release the new stuff on Xbox. which, to be honest, as a business, and this is where a lot of people go wrong, it is a business. At foremost, it's a business. They have to make money. So that sort of thing where they've paid out that kind of money, of course they're going to stay on Xbox, the new games. But like Elder Scrolls and stuff like that, and the Fallout that's already on the other consoles, they will honor that. There's a complete difference to completely cutting out half of your consumer base.
That's an interesting point. Now, Assemble, you know, you're into your Marvel superheroes in a big way. What's your take on Spider-Man only appearing on PlayStation? Is it, you know, does that seem unfair, or does that seem like a business deal, you know, on behalf of Sony and PlayStation?
Yeah, I think it is it's a business deal. I don't like it because I have both consoles myself, and I went on the Sony side for Marvel's Avengers because one of the reasons would have been, well, I eventually I can get Spider-Man. No idea if that is ever going to actually happen, but it's not good practice. We don't like it as gamers because we want to be able to play on. We feel like we have the right or should be able to play on whichever console we want. For a game, if it's Resident Evil or have Spider-Man not being exclusive, but we've had timed exclusives before. This doesn't seem, as Lupa's saying, this does not seem like good practice. At the same time, the only thing I would throw out is while Resident Evil is a very large franchise, I don't think that not everybody plays Resident Evil. I kind of look at it almost like this isn't. It's massive, yes, it is, but it's not a Call of Duty, where they're saying our next Call of Duty game is only on PlayStation. I don't know. I think that fans of the franchise are going to be very, very upset because they say, "Well, I am on this one console, this one platform now. I can't play it." It is a poor tactic that way, and it doesn't seem like it is something they wanted to get out. And like Lupa said, it's like it just seems more like shady practice. So I'm not a fan of it by any means. I understand that Sony maybe feels that they need to do some agreements and timed exclusives. While I don't like them, at least they're timed, where it is going to be either exclusive DLC or it's going to be 2, 3 months, 6 months on the platform. I worry though that it does, if this is all true, I worry what it means to just future franchises, that Sony or Xbox comes in to say, we want it for 6 months, we want it for a year, or we just want it completely. And Xbox going the other route, and to Lupa's point, it's not that with the Bethesda acquisition, that's them working together, and it's a celebrated partnership for them for years to put out their games, versus this is under the table, or not under the table, but it's not presented to the public. So I worry what it would mean for future franchises, future titles, if we look at something like Marvel versus Capcom, Street Fighter, that are very heavily associated with PlayStation for the fighting games. Devil May Cry. I would worry that it would slowly turn into, well, no, we don't have a deal with the studio or the developer to say all the titles are exclusive to Sony. Oh no, we're not saying that. But what if it is a pick and choose? It's a Resident Evil, a Devil May Cry, a Marvel vs. Capcom, big titles from Capcom specifically.
Yeah, no, that's interesting. And like you say, I do agree that, some of the Capcom titles, particularly Resident Evil, the first time I played Resident Evil was on a PlayStation. So to me, Resident Evil and PlayStation kind of go hand in hand, but that doesn't necessarily mean to say that has to be the case, I guess. So that, there are, in my psyche, PlayStation is aligned to a certain amount of these games. But like you say, there's absolutely no reason why it can't come and shouldn't come to any other platform. There's been some good chat about this as well, actually. So hopefully we'll come to that in a bit with Pux. But Pux, before we come to you, Luke, if you don't mind, Pux, was you quite surprised by this leaked document? Was it something that you kind of realised may have happened in between the platform holders? And does it seem a little out of hand to you?
Yeah, I don't share the same mindset, I'm afraid.
Okay.
I think early in the week, when all the commotion was going on Twitter and all this stuff was being tweeted and reposted on different news sites, I managed to find one of the tweets where the documents were, and I had to read through. And I mean, it can definitely read, at least when you see all the legal jargon on these documents, it can definitely read as though it sounds pretty shady and bad. But I'm no legal expert, I'll put that straight. But from my perspective, at least, when I'm reading this, I it doesn't sound like anything out of the ordinary to me personally, because it's easy to look at this. I think that, a lot of people are quick to jump on that, our PlayStation or Sony are paying money to have it not be on Xbox, and I think there were some cases where they said that there'll be no technical differences between the two. And I think a lot of people interpreted that to mean that the Series X version is going to be, or it's going to be restricted compared to the PS5. When I would argue, that's not what that means. I would argue. I mean, comments like that really mean that the PlayStation version shall be no lesser than the previous, not necessarily that the others cannot be better. And I think there's a strict difference, I would argue, between those two statements. Mm-hmm. And I mean, I think the other thing to really point out, at least from how I see it, is Xbox are going to have done exactly the same thing with with the acquisitions with Bethesda, for example. I appreciate that they've now acquired them, and then that's now under a different. Well, obviously they have full ownership, so of course they can now do whatever they want with them. But I would argue, coming up to the acquisitions, up to when it was finalized, rather, I can bet you a sweet A, so to speak, that there was all sorts of these similar contracts being written up and signed, and I can only imagine the wording would have been relatively similar, to say that once acquisitions completed, these games will not be presented onto other platforms, so to speak, or as and where necessary. We already know that things that were on a case by case basis. So yeah, that's a long story short. Again, I think it was more maybe news outlets and stuff, maybe reading a bit more into it than anything that's strictly being wrong. And I'd argue that more of it was just legal jargon as opposed to Sony's being bad because kind of thing.
Yeah, no, I completely agree. And legal jargon, it's quite strange, isn't it? Legal jargon, and correct me if I'm wrong, Luke, and we'll come to you now if that's okay. Legal jargon for the legal experts has a very specific meaning and an understanding, but for the lay person, it can actually be read and interpreted in quite a different way and normally wrong, I guess. So, Luke, we had a bit of a chat on the private chat about this, and you were saying, well, actually, you don't think that's probably too far out of bed with what most exclusivity deals actually look like and what it is they're stipulating. There was a couple of angles that people were running with, wasn't it, around the parity between the systems, and also that it couldn't come to another streaming service. I can't quite remember if I think they actually named Game Pass explicitly, didn't they? Do you think this is quite a normal practice then that Microsoft kind of do as well, or?
Yeah, almost certainly. I think it's one of those things that there's different angles to it, and I think you can be upset at some elements in a fair way, depending on your point of view.
But, on this specific deal, or in general?
In general, kind of on this specific deal as well, but this is more endemic to deals like this. So I think the thing that people have to remember, and it's an important one, and I don't know why people seem to overlook this, is Sony and Capcom negotiated this deal, unless we can't vouch for the veracity of the document, right? Whether it's true or not, it certainly looks like it's a real document. So let's just assume it is. But Sony and Capcom negotiated this document. So any outrage that people have to Sony of its content can equally be put to Capcom, because it's not it's a commercial arm's length deal, right? So they're agreeing to do these things for an exchange of, in Sony's case, some exclusivity, and in Capcom's case, they get some money. So that's an element I think people really overlook. And there's a fanboy slant sometimes I think people come at because they just read Sony and all of a sudden, oh, it's Sony are awful. And you may think Sony are awful, but this type of deal is something that Microsoft do, Nintendo do, Sony do, etc. All sorts of publishers will do something like this. So there's that element. I think you can justifiably be annoyed because this depends on your general kind of view these things. Things like time DLC, right? Exclusivity, or time demo exclusivity, all of which that this deal in particular contains. So that's not necessarily something Sony specific, but I think everybody has a view on that, right? Whether they like those practices or not. And personally, time DLC, I don't really like it, right? So, it's not something that I'm particularly kind of like, oh well, that's just the way it is. I'd prefer if you didn't have those things, because it is annoying sometimes where if there's DLC that comes out for a game you love and it's timed on another platform. But that's Sony being a business and looking after. They're trying to look after in their own way their PlayStation base, right? To give them some extra value for being on that platform. If you don't think that Microsoft do this thing with their marketing deals, you're quite naive. And the bits that I got frustrated by the reactions to were things like people keeping it off, people talking about, oh, this keeps it off Game Pass, this does X, Y, and Z. And I kind of look at that and go,
that seemed like a new twist to me. I mean, is that something that's going to be in every kind of exclusivity deal going forwards?
Well, I suppose let me ask you the question. Do you think that in the deals that Microsoft have with, various indie developers and Square Enix for Outriders and all of this stuff, do you not think that they also have a clause that says you can't bring it to certain services within a defined period of time? Because they most certainly do.
Well, yeah, no, I agree. But I would also perhaps argue that Microsoft may not feel threatened by PlayStation's subscription service at this moment in time. And so the stipulation for that might not be quite as at the forefront of their mind, perhaps, as it is the other way around.
The stipulation, though, in that agreement was effectively that Sony would have a 1-year period with Capcom to negotiate the game coming to one of their subscription services, and that after that point, it was essentially free game, right? So it was just a year. And I think the really important point with something like Resident Evil is it was never going to come to Game Pass day one, or probably within the first 6 months anyway.
Yeah.
It's an established, hugely successful franchise that will have a lot of sales day one. It's not something like Outriders, which is a new IP, right? Which is Square Enix no doubt looked at that and thought, this is a bit risky. Let's try and recoup some costs in any way we can. Oh, Game Pass is here. Microsoft are giving us a lot of money to do this. Like, this is a good idea. That's totally, I would imagine, a really great idea for a game like Outriders. It's not necessarily a good thing for Resident Evil. So, whereas if Capcom, are given a chunk of money for Sony, and all Sony is saying is, one, you advertise, if you're advertising the game, it's in kind of, it's synonymous with PlayStation, and two, we have some exclusivity around, demos and DLC and that sort of stuff for a brief period of time. I think it's a no-brainer, surely, that Capcom would choose that and go, yeah, that's probably the better deal for us right now. We're pretty confident in how Village is going to do at launch. So those kind of deals are endemic to the gaming industry, whether it's an exclusivity deal based on marketing like this one is, and then there's some kind of added elements to it. It's not, and it's not Sony, I don't think, feeling threatened by Game Pass because it names any subscription service. It's just Sony trying to make sure that, okay, if this ever does, in the next year, if this comes to something, or Capcom want it to come to something that's not PlayStation Now, for example, they can't, because we're going to try and negotiate between us that it comes to PS Now first. And if we can't do that, and if we can't come to a commercially sensible, that's what's going to happen. Then after a year, go nuts, Capcom. You can negotiate whatever you want, right? Because at that point, it's a year later after the game. So what does Sony care?
Yeah.
And then, I mean, I guess the big one and the big frustrating element that was, and Puck's touched on it, was this technical parity thing.
Yeah.
So that's really frustrating, because I to some extent, I get how people just look at that on paper and then go, well, it means X, but it's always more complicated than that, because it's a legal document, right? And the thing about the parity clause is that it effectively says that, the PlayStation version has to have parity with other platforms. And then importantly, and the bit that people miss, or that deliberately ignore, depending on your viewpoint, is right after it says, subject to material platform limitations, which is effectively them saying exactly as Puck said. First of all, you can't make the PlayStation game, out of technical lockstep with other versions. And by that, they mean, broadly speaking, it can't be dreadful by comparison, right? It can't fail to run, or it can't, run in a poor way. But also the subject to material platform limitations is specifically there, it's specifically put in so that if by chance, the Series X can do a higher resolution or 120 FPS, and the PlayStation 5 just cannot do that. That Capcom aren't beholden to that contract to be like, well, we're not going to do that in the Xbox version, because they're not. They can just say your platform can't do it. We try to optimize, and Sony go, okay, fair play, fair enough. That's the whole reason. And I think Zuge, who's on Twitter, he's a Daniel Ahmed, who's a gaming analyst. He posted an Xbox licensing agreement or publishing agreement, which had very similar parity language. It was very, very similar to the document. So it's clearly a standard clause in those sorts of deals. I just find the whole reaction to it so overblown and so overproportionate to what it is, and it's frustrating because I get that people. Sony's in a bit of a bad news cycle at the moment, so a lot of stuff that's picked up on is picked up on in a negative way, and usually, or sometimes for fair reason. But this isn't one of them. I just find the reaction a bit ridiculous, but there we go.
Yeah, no, fair point. And like you say, I think I think Sony's trying to, they've actually come out and been vocal, and I think they're trying to turn the whole sort of news narrative round slowly, and that's a good thing. And also, there's already an exclusive that. Not an exclusive, but a gaming deal that PlayStation have, where the Xbox version does outperform, and that's Call of Duty. It's had 120 frames per second mode for a long time, so you would have thought, as part of the Call of Duty exclusivity deal, that would have been, the parity comment would have been in there as well, and it's already been proved to not be the case, I'm guessing. So that's quite hopeful as well, that the parity thing doesn't actually exist how you might think it does.
Yeah, and also I find it sometimes a bit funny that people say, "Oh well, it's holding the Series X version back." When notwithstanding all of the stuff that I've just said, but the Series X version runs 4K 60 with RT for Resident Evil Village, as does the PS5. Where do people expect it to go? Do you know what I mean? Like, what do people expect the Series X version to be? But it's not going to be anything more than that. So, and that's if you read it in that particular way, which is fundamentally wrong. So yeah, it's an interesting.
No, that's true. I guess there are some graphical settings that could change, and to be honest, you tend to find that they push the Series X a little harder on the graphical settings and actually sacrifice a little bit of frames per second. You tend to find some of the PlayStation 5 games actually potentially perform better frames per second wise, but they do have slightly less graphical, shadows or whatever, whatever it is. But, like that, But no, it's an interesting point, and I'm pleased we've discussed it as a panel, and I really appreciate everyone's input and opinions on this, because it was one that came out of the blue, and I'm just like you, Loop. I was kind of, I wouldn't say outraged, but I was very disappointed to see that this kind of practice goes on. But I guess perhaps scratching beneath the surface, that actually it might not be quite what it was on this occasion, but I am a little, I guess, I didn't appreciate the fact that it was being tied up and couldn't come to other services. That seemed a little unfair. I know not much love is lost in business, but yeah, it's an interesting take on that. And like I say, perhaps when PlayStation and PlayStation Plus or PlayStation Now is a service that can even try and compete with Game Pass and stuff, perhaps that's something that will become more and more prevalent, where these big games just exist on one service and not the other. But we're not there yet, I guess. Excellent. Well, that's topic 2 done. Thank you very much. Thank you, chat. It's been fantastic.
I've got a number of comments, if you don't mind me.
Oh yeah, go on. Yeah, go on.
Quite a few things have been said about this, so I'll start from the top. So, Boardman Gamer first. Doesn't matter what Sony does to try and compete with Game Pass, they will never do the one thing that will compete, and that's day and date first-party games on the service. I think this is in relation to PlayStation Now, or equivalent. Tavish Hill says, I think the difference between the platform holders going forward is that Microsoft will pay for day one Game Pass launches, while Sony will pay for timed exclusives. Sony's approach looks dirty in comparison. Bullman Gamer again. Do you think the reason Sony can get good exclusive deals on Spider-Man is because Sony own the movie rights and Marvel are playing ball so they can let him be used in the MCU? That's a question to the panel.
Assemble. Luke, what do you reckon?
I don't necessarily think so, actually. I think maybe that one was just something where Sony had a great idea for it, they had a developer in Insomniac that they thought could make a good Spider-Man game, and they just went, Disney, we've got this idea. What do you think? I mean, I guess it's possible they could have hardballed the movie rights, as that was going on to get a game version. But I don't know. I feel like we would have heard something specific, some credible insider talk about that if that was the case. But and maybe there is one. I'm not sure, but no, I think maybe that was just because the reason I say that specifically is because Marvel Games themselves have talked about how the deal came to fruition. It seemed like they were going out to different parties that they thought could produce good Marvel games, not just Spider-Man, but good Marvel games. And one of the best kind of pitches they heard were from Sony and Insomniac. So and then it just obviously snowballed from there, where Sony probably said, okay, we'll make it, we'll publish it, but we want exclusivity for, well, we think probably 3 full games. So
yeah, I think it's fair to say they've done a fantastic job with the franchise.
Yeah, they've done pretty well. Yeah.
Sorry, Pucks.
That's all right. I'll carry on. Where did I get to? So, Tukun Gula has said, it's funny how the usual suspects, IGN and all, won't comment about some of these anti-consumer practices by Sony. I wonder if they'd keep silent if Microsoft splashed out the cash to lock down an IP. I understand that it's business and all. I don't think they want to provoke Microsoft into an IP war, because we all know who would win. Boomer Game again says, there's so much to play, and that is coming out cross-platform and exclusive to Xbox. I don't mind timed Sony exclusives, as it will probably take me a year before I get around to it anyway. Lol. Matt Diet has said, for 4 to 5 years, Capcom/PlayStation had a falling out during the Nintendo GameCube and Wii era, where some Resident Evil games were exclusive to those Nintendo platforms.
I don't remember that.
I think Resident Evil 4 had a limited start, I believe, on the GameCube, if I remember correctly.
Yeah, that's right.
I don't know if that was done again, by the way, but I know Resident Evil 4 was mainly on GameCube. Tukungula, I actually hope Microsoft fights back. Maybe pay for clauses to not necessarily lock IPs down, but more to make sure they can come on board Game Pass. Bullman Gamer, I'd love to see the contract for Final Fantasy VII Remake. The year exclusive deal is up, yet still no mention of an Xbox version being released. My opinion, I mean, none of us know anything, but I'd like to think that something's happening in the background regarding that particular title. I'd love to play it. I have got a PS4, I know, but if I know that it's coming to Series X, I'd rather wait just for that obviously better performance. But I'd like to see Final Fantasy VII on Xbox personally, but only time will tell. Tsukungura again, I also hope devs drop these platform parity clauses too. Consumers shouldn't suffer because one platform lacks in a certain area. Let's get the best version of third-party software on each respective hardware. Matt Diet, the thing that gets me is that this was only a marketing rights deal, not an exclusivity deal. No money was exchanged for marketing rights, where exclusivity money does change hands. Bullman Gamer, I'd have thought Sony may have put Resident Evil 8 on PS Now to pull players onto the service. If not, putting their own first-party games on PS Now, why not put high-profile third-party games, take the loss to build up the service? Well, I know they recently put on Borderlands 3 and Avengers on the PS Now, but then that also got some backlash because they were only the PS4 titles, not PS5. So I know there was a number of a bit of commotion online regarding that, but I just don't think Sony have the PS Now subscriber numbers to warrant using it enough or utilizing it enough in its current form. I can only imagine they're trying to almost transform or reinvigorate it into something new for the PS5. I mean, that's my very quick opinion on that, but that's it for the comments so far.
Yeah, okay, no, that's cool. I've got a question for you actually, Lupo. Is there a PlayStation IP that would that you would consider buying a PlayStation 5 for? What is there a particular IP that you think I really wish that was on Xbox?
There's a lot.
Yeah. What pick one? What would be the one?
To have a PS, but it's the time. I've got so much on Game Pass now. But yeah, God of War. It's one of the best games ever made. I've been wanting to play it since the 4 Horsemen of the Apocalypse time. And there's Uncharted, of course, and then there's Horizon Zero Dawn. If I had to pick one, it would have to be God of War.
I'm a big Uncharted
It's a
fan,
good choice.
but yeah, even I would pick God of War, to be honest. Assemble,
But
what's your...
Uncharted is so similar to Tomb Raider, but
It
it's
is.
still something. Basically, it swapped out a woman for a guy.
Yeah, no, that's a fair comment, and I like the storylines and stuff, and I think Drake's quite a
Yeah.
likable character. I like all of that, but that's my bag anyway. I love all of that sort of 3D
Yeah, I
platform
love
puzzling.
like Tomb Raider. I've played
Yeah.
every single one of them.
Yeah,
I
yeah.
do love them, but yeah, I mean God of War, and I do like. I've played some Horizon Zero Dawn. Looking forward to the new one, but I won't be able to play that because of the COVID situation. Because I played it at my son's house on his PS.
Okay.
So yeah, I have played a bit, but yeah, out of all of them, I think it has to be God of War.
That's a good choice. Assemble. What's the one Sony IP that you think is the absolute one that you love the most?
If you have to, I would have said Uncharted as well because of just how big that story is over the cross of PS. When did it originally come out? PS3, yeah, PS3, all the way until PS4. If we're not going there, I would say Spider-Man. We have the PS4 version updated to the PS5, and if you are a superhero fan or Spider-Man fan at all, that is an amazing game with many more to come down the pipe. So I think for longevity as well, you get that title that is already gorgeous and is phenomenal to play. To see where that franchise will go and creating the franchise out of it, along with Miles Morales. Yeah, I would go with Spider-Man.
Okay. Just while we're on the topic, Luke, what's your favorite Sony IP then?
Oh, that's a tough one. That flap.
It's like picking your children. Which one are you going to pick?
Yeah, it is. I love all my children. Probably it kind of changes, but I guess if you were to ask me, 7 times out of 10, it would either be God of War or The Last of Us.
Oh, Last of Us. Okay.
But it depends on. But Spider-Man's well up there as well because it's just fantastic. But
I think I know what yours is going to be, Puxley. But
yes, I think you do. I mean, I agree with everyone else on here. Like, what games would I want a PlayStation for? I mean, having a PS4, very fortunate enough for that. I mean, God of War I love, Uncharted I love, the Spider-Man games I love. But yeah, for me, I would definitely 100% love to say I'd pick up a PlayStation 5 for Ratchet and Clank.
Oh, I thought he was going to say Ghost of Tsushima. Oh, I got that wrong then.
Well, I'm only not saying that because there's no confirmed sequel or anything. If in regards to answering the question of where would I get a PS5 for X title, I mean, I love Ghost of Tsushima. I have it. I played it. It was 100% my game of 2020 without a doubt. But no, in terms of what I'll get a PS5 for, just to answer that particular question, 100% Ratchet and Clank is my series that I'd really want to play first.
The Xbox really need a Ratchet and Clank competitor, don't they? Because I'm really excited by that game. I think it looks fantastic.
Yeah, I mean, I've gone through the Game Pass platformers section, and I mean, there's a lot of really decent indie titles and 2D platformers on there, but sometimes I want to play a 3D platformer, like a good one. But they just don't exist in such great capacity. I think the best one that is on there, in my opinion at least, is the Super Lucky's Tale series, the original and the new upgraded one, which are great games. But there's just not enough of them.
No, we've got Psychonauts coming. Psychonauts coming.
Yeah, that's true.
Yeah, well, you hope it is. We've been hearing about it for so long, but it's not got it yet.
I'm sure it's on its way.
Yeah, Super Lucky Tales I've played, and yeah, I love it.
We do also have a Destroy All Humans remake that's coming to Game Pass in the next week, I believe. Yeah. So I'm looking forward to jumping on that as well. Actually,
yeah, I never played the original. Is that any good?
Oh, I love the original. Yeah, it's fantastic.
Oh, excellent.
I mean, it might not necessarily live up to today's standards, but at the time, I mean, little 10-year-old me absolutely loved it.
Excellent. Oh, okay. Well, that's cool. Well, we're caught up with the chat. I think Baldman Gamers I think he posted in there saying that it's been confirmed that Bethesda are now going to hold their own E3 show at E3, obviously. So that's pretty cool. Is that much of a surprise to anyone? I'm guessing that's not much of a surprise. Do you think this is where we will see Starfield for the first time?
Yes.
I mean, they've got to show something.
They've been polishing it. Yeah, they've been polishing it for about a year now. And it's going to be the end of this year, beginning of next will be release.
It's interesting that. Do you think they'll be pushing Deathloop as well? much, seeing as it's
Uh,
on PlayStation. It'd be interesting to see how they handle Deathloop and Ghostwire Tokyo. But
I don't know. They may not. They might show. I mean, all this. Oh, it's Xbox against PS. That's absolute rubbish. Xbox are fighting against Tencent and
I agree.
Amazon Luna.
Yeah.
They're not bothered about PlayStation really.
I think Tencent
Uh,
are an interesting one, and fun enough, after the show in the green room last week, I was sort of saying, I don't know why, but I seem to have an inherent distrust of Tencent. I don't know
Yes,
why. They
me
just
too.
seem very anonymous, don't they? They're not
It's
personable.
dodgy. Yeah, very not much information about them and who's running them and
Yeah, but have they
who's
done
in there
anything? Have they done anything to warrant that opinion? Because I can't think of a single thing they've done personally that I'm aware
No.
of to warrant my
just
opinion
seem
of
to have
them.
no, just an awful lot of money they're throwing about, and I believe that was the push for Bethesda as well because Xbox didn't want Tencent to have it. I don't know. It's a very difficult situation because obviously I don't know them, and that's the problem because we don't know anything about them.
Yeah,
But they
like you
seem
say.
to have plenty of money to throw about. So who is this Tencent? Who are they? Where they come from?
Yeah, there's
What
no
are they?
there's no public facing side of them as far as we see. I mean, obviously they're
No,
Chinese, so
no.
we may not see
Yeah.
that side of them, I guess. But
I mean,
very
I've tried
interesting.
to search them. I've tried to look up about them, but there's not much out there at all, really.
Yeah, I know they own King. I think it was King Games who make Candy Crush. You know,
That's it.
they own a lot of
Yeah.
stuff like that, don't they? But
Yeah, I think they're more mobile based in that sense, but I think they're trying to branch out into, PC console, I suppose. I don't know. That's the problem. That's
we
what
don't know
makes
their
them feel dodgy to me. We don't know.
we don't know
What
their
are
end
you
goal, do
after?
we? Exactly.
No.
Exactly.
Are you after the mobile market? Are you
Mm.
after console? Do you want to, that's what's so weird about it. We don't know because they don't put anything out, what they're doing, why they're doing it, nothing. So it's a very difficult situation. But that's definitely those, and Luna is going to come up quite well, I think, because Amazon's also loaded. So
Yeah, no, absolutely.
that's going to be a threat, I think. But I do think that Xbox have got all the areas covered. I mean, we've got plenty of with the xCloud. I think that's an amazing thing. If you get the Rishi as well, makes it a whole lot better. I play play the odd PC game on my laptop, but do you know about the ability to connect your controller to your laptop and directly to your Xbox
Yep, yep.
with the share button? I did a little piece on that on Xbox Ultimate because not a lot of people know that you
Yeah,
can
you can
just
switch
with a
between
simple
them.
press you can switch
Yeah,
between the two.
exactly.
I think that's an amazing thing, and I don't know why Xbox haven't pushed that, except for the fact that the Elite hasn't got it. So when the next Elite comes out, maybe that's when they'll push it.
Yeah, possibly. Like I say, I'm expecting an Elite Series 3 perhaps to be landing at
Yeah.
E3 this year. But
And then it will have the share button. It'll have the sync button. You'll be able to do the same thing, I should think, by then.
Oh, absolutely. Well, let's come to you to topic 3, if that's okay, Assemble. Let's come to. Do you play PC gaming at all?
I don't. I'm actually no.
Do you-
I've got the PC could handle it. I just
Yeah.
don't. I just play. I've been just on my console my whole life, and I mean the only times I'd play PC were way back when I am playing anything for Command and Conquer or any of the RTS games. So that's really when and a little bit of Call of Duty on my PC, and I tried out a little bit of Warzone on my PC when I got my new one to see if it can handle it. So it's great, but no, I've just been so traditional of sit on the couch, play on my console.
Oh, right. Now that's interesting. Do you play many console multiplayer games?
What would you say? What would be off the top of your head? Trying to think.
I'm kind of thinking whether it's time that the console gamers got the same kind of graphical adjustments that PC gamers get, because I think Halo is quite a good example where you can actually have 120 frames a second on PC and adjust the field of view and things like that, which would give multiplayer gamers a slight advantage on PC. And I'm just sort of thinking, with the power of these new consoles, perhaps it's time for us to do away with that the disparity between the different gaming platforms, as it were, because I appreciate that consoles are predominantly one setting, one size kind of fits all almost, although they've had to change slightly because most games have a quality and performance mode nowadays. But when you are playing multiplayer games and you think, well, actually, particularly with cross-play games, and I play things like Rogue Company and things like that, there's definitely always a feeling that if someone's playing on PC, they've got an advantage. And I obviously appreciate that a mouse and keyboard controller side of things is the biggest advantage, although you can obviously plug a mouse and keyboard into your Xbox One X and Series X nowadays. But it just also seems that they sort of sometimes have graphical advantages as well. And I'm just wondering if in this sort of generation, whether we will actually see sort of those kind of settings come a little bit closer to PC on these more powerful next-gen consoles. Is that something you'd like to see, or is that something you're not completely not bothered about?
Of course, I would like to see it available, but I think it gets to a point where how many options do you want to put out there for console players when the console experience is designed to be streamlined, plug and play, go, and on the PC side, doing it at a higher level, you have the understanding, and I think that you can and you want to be able to adjust settings and adjust the HDR and adjust the frame rates and adjust all these things versus a console player, again, traditionally, I think would want to just be able to turn on their game, turn on Halo and go and not have to worry about too much. Even with the latest updates that we've seen on Xbox side, where we just have the latest round of EA Play titles on Game Pass that so many of them, almost all of them, have 120 hertz are now being updated for that. And there was also another article that came out, I think it was either today or yesterday, talking about the AMD chips within the Series X that they might actually be getting unlocked so that they can increase performance. But to be able to change modes and to go given an option like we've seen with certain titles of like, hey, do you want to go from 30, 60, 120? Do you want HDR on and off? It's going to be, what are you able to output? I mean, great, but if I need the TV or I need the monitor that's capable of doing that, then I'm putting in even more cost. I don't know if they will. It's an interesting conversation because I think that on one hand, for hardcore players, I would love the options to be able to switch things on and off. I look at the frame rate adjusters. That's the smallest thing that we could change on most titles, even on PlayStation, where going from 30 to 60 is mind-blowing for some games. Now, excuse me, if I look at the Sony side, being able to change 30 to 60 frames on Spider-Man and Miles Morales was game-changing for me. Playing the whole thing through at 30 frames and then switching it over and doing another playthrough in 60, it changed the experience for me. And I loved it. So I do love the ability to flip back and forth depending on what the game is to give me a more optimized experience. At the same time, I think that it's tricky. I would say at the same time that the developer and the people that are making the game are putting out a specific experience. They want you to experience it a certain way. Now on PC side, that could be like we ideally we want it at 120 frames or 4K and all of this, and it blows your mind. So, but I don't think. I guess the end of my argument would be, and my point would be, I don't think that Xbox or consoles will go too far into the realm of giving players large amounts of freedom to adjust everything like you can on the PC side. And if we look at Xbox, I think Xbox would say, if gamers were all of a sudden upset that they couldn't adjust things on their Xbox, I think Xbox internally would go, then get a PC, because you can play all of our titles over there. So if you really want to be able to have that, go over to the PC market and play our games.
But that's the thing, if you've got a Series X sitting under your TV, though, there's nothing to stop you being able to do the same sort of thing. So in my mind, I would envisage that there would still be a sort of, I imagine going to the sort of the graphic settings, and there would be a basic graphic settings, and you can either choose between quality and performance like you have now. But I can also imagine a sort of a drop down menu where you can actually choose advanced. And then you can actually start adjusting some of the, FOV sliders and things like that.
And they are so close to your point. They are so close to it being just a PC. Everything's in there, so I don't think it's not impossible. I don't know. I'm looking at the perspective of a more casual player or the family looking at getting consoles, how much they're going to take advantage of that. For the hardcore fans and people that are wanting to get into the settings of it, I think they would love it. I think they would really appreciate it. Yeah.
It's interesting.
I can tell you it's already there. The field of view changes in
Yep.
Halo MCC.
That's true.
It's in a lot of games, and also the graphics where you can turn it on and off. I have an OLED and a Series X, and the difference between what I was playing on and that is phenomenal. I can't go back to 30. I won't go back to 30.
I've had
No.
the same experience. Games going to 60 or 120,
Mm.
I can't go back to 30. It's
Can't.
making it harder and harder
Absolutely.
now.
You
No,
know what?
You just can't.
Pax and I had this conversation the other day. It's really strange, isn't it? Because I played The Outer Worlds and really enjoyed it. It was a kind of a bit like Fallout New Vegas. It had that kind of feel to it. I really enjoy that kind of game and stuff. And the 60 frames a second patch came out not that long ago, a couple of months ago, I believe. And it's like you said, it's an absolute game changer, and I absolutely struggle to believe that I didn't even notice that the original game was in 30 frames a second, to be honest, because I genuinely didn't. I was just playing it, and to be honest, it's a single player first person shooter, so it's not massively critical. If it was multiplayer, then it would probably be a different matter altogether. But yeah, when the 60 frames per second patch landed for The Outer Worlds, it was like the scales had fallen from my eyes of that game. I mean, I've obviously played lots of 60 frames a second games before, but that one in particular was absolutely fantastic. And like you say, there is no going back. One thing I would say, and perhaps we'll come to you next, Luke, if that's okay, is lots of games do offer a performance mode, but they're still not hitting the target frame rates because they're trying to do the shadows. They're trying to do you can just on PC you can actually adjust the dynamic resolution, scaling, and all sorts of things like that. And like you say, if frames per second are your bag, why as console gamers shouldn't we be allowed to make those incremental adjustments? I appreciate there is a huge chunk of people out there that just don't care and they would rather select performance or quality mode, but there's also a lot of tinkerers out there who would actually like to tailor their games. Is that something you think console gaming will actually end up with, or do you think it will always be we're stuck with kind of performance and quality mode?
I think there will be a bit more of a divergence in terms of the options that are offered, and you can see that on games like the main game that actually sticks out is actually the one that Assemble mentioned, which is Spider-Man, but specifically Miles Morales, where you have now you have free modes where you can select a 4K 30 ray traced version or a 4K 60 FPS non-ray traced version, and then there's also a mode which is
The RT.
the RT mode, which is RT Performance, which is 1080p 60 with RT. But notably, the one thing that also does is it reduces some other elements of the fidelity on screen, so stuff like NPC density and those sorts of things are reduced so that it can hit the target. So I think what you'll end up with is something like that. I don't think that developers and publishers are really going to want to go to the extra effort of putting in adjustment sliders for an audience that will not really make use of it.
Is it extra effort if it exists on PC, though? I mean, obviously it's been ported over from PC to console, so that would probably exist at some point in the development process anyway, I guess, wouldn't it?
Yes.
Well, it would, yeah, but the difference is, of course, that when you're coding for when developers are making a game for a console, they're optimizing to the metal for that console. It has a fixed spec. The whole reason you put, that there are tweaks on all these laundry list of options, graphical settings, etc. on PC is because you have such a huge spectrum of rigs that are going to be running the game that people want to, and that audience in particular wants to be able to tweak their performance, because for someone on a lower rig, they might not care visually how the game looks, but they want it to run as high a frame as possible. So obviously you need those options in there to enable that. Likewise, you need those options so that some rigs can actually run the game in the first place, because they might not be able to do it if you can't, lower things down. And I think those options are a different thing from stuff like FOV sliders, which are more visual acuity features that we are seeing much more of in the console space, and that really should exist anyway, because field of view is something that is beneficial for a couple of reasons. One, because it allows you a bigger view of the whole area of your screen and the whole area of the play environment. But also, some people get quite ill on lower FOVs, or if FOVs are too close. So it's actually, you can get motion sickness. So that's an important one anyway, and it's a good one player. And the main area you see that coming in is first-person shooters, because obviously by default you have a narrower FOV than you would in, say, The Witcher, right, where it's third person. So I think stuff like that should just become standard in console games. I don't know whether it should in third person action games, etc., because I don't know. Usually you don't have the FOV problem. It's more first person shooters. But I just can't see them starting to introduce, oh well, you get your PS5 and Series X Resident Evil 9, and if you want, you can bump up the anisotropic filtering and then drop that down, because I don't really think console people en masse care about that. I think what people care about now, especially the new gen, is give us performance, right? Give us an option. So if we want higher graphical fidelity, we can have it. If we want 60 FPS or close or more, you can have it. Not, I don't think people are particularly bothered on these platforms about, what's the texture filtering like, what level of anti-aliasing can I have? That's kind of not particularly important to people, I think, who are playing on console. It is on PC because you want as many tweaks as possible, and for some people you might just want to whack everything up to the full and see how hard your rig can go. And it's kind of built into the culture of PC gaming. That's partly what it's about. It's not that way on console, so I just can't see it having that level of granularity, but certainly increased modes of resolution, frame rate, or like the Spider-Man example, RT on, RT performance, RT off. I can see all that happening for sure.
Okay, so some more fixed presets, I guess. So
Yes.
Lupa, would you ever play around with the sliders if we had the sort of the scope that PC has, or like, would you prefer just the presets?
I love that Xbox gives you the choice. I do like the FOV slider because I do suffer from motion sickness. I do like that. The FPS boost is just amazing.
Yeah.
You can't beat it. I don't think we need to. I agree with Luke. We don't need to go deep into all that other stuff, because the box is, as it comes, is absolutely great. So, and once the devs get around the GDK and SDK tools, people are going to be amazed. They're going to be like, "Oh my god, I can't believe how good this is." We're not into next gen yet. When next gen releases, people are going to see the difference.
That's a very
And
interesting
it's gonna
point.
be awesome.
Yeah, we've still got the Fidelity FX engine to take hold yet, haven't we? I mean, it's only just landed on developers' laps at the moment, I guess.
Exactly. And I mean, I've played Sniper Elite 4 at 60, 120 hertz. It's awesome. The difference is unbelievable. I've also played Titanfall, and again, you would not believe how awesome it looks.
That's
I
one
mean,
game
yes,
I
I
haven't.
have got. Sorry.
No, go on.
I was just going to say I have got an OLED, so it does make a massive difference. But even if you just got a straight up 4K TV, it just looks so amazing.
Yeah, OLEDs are fantastic, and the one that I think I mentioned last week, the one that really shows off OLED tellies for me personally is Will of the Wisps. It just looks
Definitely.
sublime, and obviously it runs at
Yes, I've
120
played
as
that
well.
also. Yeah,
Yeah,
120 Ori is just outstanding, and like the CX OLED that I have is, it just, the blacks are black and it's just so clear, and I don't think I need any more. I have the Series X, I have the OLED, and that is enough to make a perfect gaming match. It's just amazing. But I do like the fact that Xbox give you the choice to turn it off or turn it on. So that's amazing. Also, that they haven't just said, well, you're going to do this, you're going to have this. you can say, well, I don't actually want it, so I'll turn it off. But I can't understand any gamer, hardcore or anybody, that would want to turn off 60 FPS or drop the
No,
slider.
absolutely. Well, I
Really.
actually, Pucks and I were playing with Matt Burns during the week, wasn't we? He was playing Battlefield 5, and I actually tried the FPS boost up to 120 frames a second. I got to be honest, I was really disappointed because it really dropped all of the graphics settings, which surprised
Yes.
me. I was under the impression it was just going to cheat the system somehow and run at 120 frames a second, but it looked really weird. So I actually went back to
Yeah.
60 frames, and it looks fantastic at that. But
Yeah, I think Battlefield 4 is apparently the better one
yeah,
for that. But yeah, it does affect the graphics. It really does. But you've got to make a choice. And I've had this discussion, shall we say, with a lot of people, that FPS or graphics. And I know somebody, Flamish, who only wants his graphics and doesn't care about FPS. I
wow,
don't get that.
no, I
I
don't.
really don't get that. And we've had lots of discussions, shall we say, about it. But he's stuck with his graphics, and I'm more about FPS. So, I don't mind it dropping slightly. I don't mind it being a little bit worse for graphics if I've got the 60 frames a second at least. 120, like I think it's, what was that one I played at 120? Oh, Unravel, I think.
Okay.
And that's made me sad because the graphics are brilliant. The 60 frames is brilliant, but I bought the second one because I played the first one. I bought the second one to play with a friend, and I can't play it. I've got it sat there, and I actually bought it because it was before EA went into went into Game Pass. So I actually bought it to play with a friend, and I can't. It's
Because?
couch co-op only,
Oh, I see.
which I find ridiculous.
I've never
Why
played
have
any
I
of the
just
Unravels.
bought the Unravel? It's a lovely game. It's a really cool game, but it's if you've played one, there's no point really apart from a little bit of the story. It's pretty bland on story, but a little bit of the story and that to play. It says Unravel 2 player, and you think, oh great. So I grabbed it and then find out I can't actually play it with anybody online. I can only play it couch co-op. With COVID, that's impossible. And
Yeah.
even without COVID, really, that's impossible for me. Nobody's around long enough to play a game of that length. So then I'm going through it single player again. What's the point? I wasted my money, in my opinion.
Oh, I've not tried that. I'll have to give that game a go because it does look
It is a cool
quite good.
game.
Yeah, no, that's
It is
cool.
very
Pucks, you're a tech guy. Would you ever tweak with the settings, or is console just the space that you just want to bung a disc in or download a game and just hit the start button and you haven't got to worry about any of that?
Yeah, I've seen a few comments, interesting comments in the chat about this, kind of going either each way. But I'm of the mindset that when it comes to consoles, I think, I mean, for the the short answer is I think the box should just be the box. I'd love to just hit the start button and play the game. And that's what I love about consoles. Even though I've been playing on PC for years and years and years, one thing I've always loved about consoles is the fact that I haven't got to bother with tweaking things to get things to run smoothly, because you almost guaranteed to have the experience that was designed for you. And I'd argue that the reason we have all these settings on PC even now probably stems back from the early 2000s, when I think the whole concept of having a gaming rig was even a thing. When all different companies were starting to make early versions of their own GPUs, there was no real standard yet. So, and it was impossible, even now to a degree, but even worse back then, it was even more impossible to determine from a game developer point of view how well your game would run on one setup configuration to another. So, I mean, you could argue that's the reason why you have so many sliders, and equally why PC games back then were a lot cheaper than their console counterparts, because you just could not guarantee that the game would run as the experience was designed to be played. Of course, that's just followed through as things are now. So if I'm playing a PC game, I do enjoy tweaking the settings, but mainly it's more, oh, what if I tweak this? How does this affect my frames? Or, or how do I want to play? Do I want to play with like, low polygon graphics or something, but have super high frames, or do I want to have super good graphics at 30 frames or even less, depending on how hard you're trying to push the system? But no, I'm very much of the mindset. I think the box should be the box. I appreciate that there are, especially now, we've got things like ray tracing, which not everyone has the right TV equipment to support ray tracing and stuff like that. So I think it's great that the settings are there to have the thing between performance and graphical. But yeah, I do think the box should be the box. And even I also think there was a bit of a detriment to having too many settings, because I think especially if people aren't too familiar with what they're doing, everyone obviously has to learn somewhere, but it's very easy to get stuck in the rabbit hole of tweaking things, and then you're almost falsely telling yourself that something's different when actually it might not be. I think with as any PC gamer might tell you, I think we've all been down that rabbit hole of you eventually have to stop yourself from tweaking things, because you're almost seeing the game differently at this point. You're not actually enjoying the game anymore. It's like, oh, my game's only running at 61 frames rather than 62 now. Do you know what I mean? Like some people can get really specific about how they want their game to run. I'm talking obviously a few years ago regarding 60 being the maximum. But there is a detriment. I mean, especially on the PC online gaming space, this is one of the negative things I think that crossplay has, is that especially larger games like Fortnite, for example, I think there's a lot of top streamers and pro players that turn a lot of their graphical settings right down to the point that foliage completely disappears because you can see people better. But then equally on console, you can't do that. So you could argue, outside of the whole keyboard and mouse argument versus controller, are you on console thinking you're hiding in a bush or a bit of grass somewhere and invisible to the naked eye, but someone else can see you because their grass doesn't render from that far away. It's because they've turned their settings right down, is a massive detriment. So
that's kind of where this topic came from in my head, because certain games, and Halo being one of them, you can actually filter by controller type. So even PC players that are playing with a controller, you feel like you're not necessarily being cheated with that. But like you say, there are other graphical settings that make a difference. And I think in our heads, when we're talking about getting graphical advantages, like you say, we normally consider about upping the graphics, but a lot of pros and other players actually on PC turn down their settings, like you say, so they can see through foliage and grass and bushes and stuff like that. And it does, in this world of cross play between different platforms and stuff, it does seem a little unfair that one would have an advantage over the other like that. But perhaps that's just how things are, and as console gamers, perhaps we're just going to have to live with that, I guess.
Well, it's similar to that. We've had conversations in private in the past about how, if the game allows, we actually like to turn off crossplay because of, depending on the game, to be fair, but especially large, if you're playing Warzone, for example, I think we've definitely been in situations where we used to play that in the past where that you shouldn't be able to be seen, but then when you watch the kill cam, they're shooting you as if they can see you and you still can't see yourself, and you kind of have to put it down to, they've put their graphics down and they can see me. And, I've seen videos of people do it. It's ridiculous, but it is a thing. I know there's a number of newer games now, which, even if you turn your settings right down, there are the minimum system requirements to run the game are set as such that those things are enabled. Like there is a minimum level of foliage which is on display because it kind of helps with the cheating aspect. But yeah, I think, as you said before, a lot of newer games now you can only matchmake with crossplay if you're both using controller, or equally, even if you're on a console, if you're using a keyboard and mouse, you'll be paired with keyboard and mouse players, which I think is definitely a right step in the right direction. Sorry, but sorry, I got a bit off topic here. But regarding console versus PC in the space of toggling settings, I'm definitely in the camp of I just want to put the game in and not worry about stuff like that.
Yeah, no, that's fair enough. And like I say, I always envisaged that there would be the presets, but for people that wanted to tweak, it would be interesting to see, some of if you could squeeze some extra. Because like I say, it's all very well saying a game runs at 60 frames a second, but actually, is it actually running at 60 frames a second, or is it running at 55 and 50 and 60 and, those sort of things? And some of the purists who do like that, that performance side of things may want to lower the shadows, or like you say, the anisotropic filtering and stuff like that.
Interesting thing about that, though, is that if any console or for most PC games, that are lock 60 or lock 120, I think you'll always find in most cases that actually the game probably runs at about 58.7 or something. It's never quite a solid lock 60. I think everyone wants you to believe it does fluctuate a tiny bit, but it's so minute that you just can't perceive it.
No, and to be honest, when you've got things like VSync and stuff like that, I guess it's becoming less and less important when as people upgrade their TVs and you're able to do the sort of stuff like that, then the choppy frame rates will slowly become a thing of the past anyway, I guess. But where are we with the chat?
Yeah, I've got 3 comments saved here. So I've got one here from Indie Gamer who says, having the options is awesome, as not everyone places an emphasis of importance on the same thing. Baldman Gamer has said, I'm a console gamer, never been interested in PC gaming. I like to just be able to pick up and play a game, not having to check the specs of a game, see if it'll play on my PC. And one here from UK Dazarus who says, console should only need several options as it's ready to go in the box.
Yeah, no, fair point.
Yeah.
And like I say, I think there are going to be more options, a little bit like Luke and Assemble said. We've got ray tracing on and off, with quality with ray tracing, quality without ray tracing, frame rate with ray, all of those kind of things, I guess. But it's going to be interesting. And like we've discussed before, it's going to be interesting to see how they handle flight sim with this kind of thing, whether it is a frames per second mode and a graphical quality mode. It's going to be very interesting to see how they handle that. But fantastic. Well, that kind of concludes our topics for this evening panel, and thank you very much for being here, chat. As always, you've been absolutely amazing. Really, really appreciate everyone's input and listening to our show for 2 hours. I do apologise for the bumpy road that we had, particularly at the beginning, and one of these videos resized weird when Tunic started up, but still learning the ropes with OBS. It's definitely a better platform, but thank you everyone for listening. Lupa, let's come to you first with closing out. Thank you very much for being here. Like I say, I do apologise for the confusion and the technical hitches earlier on, but always a pleasure having you on the show.
Thank you very much indeed. It's very nice to be here. I love having good discussions about gaming, so I've loved it. Thank you very much indeed.
No problem. Well, you're welcome back anytime. We'll keep your eye on your inbox. We'll certainly get you back on the show. Assemble, same for you. Thank you very much for being here, my friend. First time on the show. Hope you found it okay. How was the experience?
I enjoyed it. It was great. Thank you so much for having me. It's been great to be able to finally talk to all of you and talk Xbox and the latest news. But yeah, it's been fantastic. Hopefully I can come back again sometime.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah, definitely enjoyed myself. Thank you for having me.
Well, just give us a brief rundown of your channel, what we can expect to find there and where we can find it.
Yeah, so if everyone would like to, they can head over to youtube.com/assemble show, all one word. And anything from the latest in gaming news every single day of the week, as well as, more specific coverage on some titles that I just enjoy playing, like looking at Marvel's Avengers and latest news. I'll have an episode out on that probably by tomorrow morning with those MCU skins that are released. So I'll probably be talking about that with everybody tomorrow, as well as just going through some Marvel, DC news and rumors that we always have going on. But yeah, if anybody would like to, it's youtube.com/assemble show.
Fantastic show, and like I say, I've been watching your channel grow pretty much since the beginning, and like I say, sublime production levels and stuff. It's a fantastic show.
I appreciate it.
No, absolutely. You put a lot of time and effort in. When you do YouTube channels, you see the time and effort people put into their channels, and it's fantastic. And thankfully, you're getting the subs and the recognition that you deserve. So that's fantastic. Luke, thank you for being here, my friend, part of the GPG crew. Hope you've enjoyed the show. Appreciate your sort of legal expertise when it comes to certain matters, particularly around obviously things like contracts and stuff like that. So thank you for being here. Did you have a good one?
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, they're brilliant as usual. Great topics. Some good debate, and it's great being on with Lupa and Assemble as well. Really enjoyed that. So yeah, as always, fantastic to be here.
Excellent. Well, we'll have to do some more shows. There are some changes coming to GPG, so keep your eye open for that. We're not really ready to announce any of that just yet, even though I kind of technically have. But yeah, things are afoot. Things are changing. So hopefully we might start seeing some more shows as well during the week. But like I say, we'll go into that nearer the time. Puxley, my wingman, thank you very much for being here, my friend. How have you found tonight's topics?
Oh, really good. I really enjoy the chat. Always enjoy talking games with the panel. Really great to have Assassin Looper and Assemble on as well. And as always, as you say, love having Luke on. And I think you mentioned it halfway through the show, actually, that, yes, we're almost up to 800 subscribers, 792 at the moment. So thank you all in the chat and those watching after the live show for your support. We very much appreciate it. I believe last week there was some issues with the Discord link in the description, but that was sorted last week. So if you'd like to join the Greenpass Gaming GPG Crew Discord server, the link in the description should work. So by all means, please give it a click and continue the discussions after the show. We'd love to see you over there.
Yeah, we have hearty discussions after the show. People post links and the latest news and stuff, and we discuss those after the show and during the week. And it's fantastic to see people's input. And I get a lot of my ideas for the topics and stuff. Some topics are obvious, others are a little, like I say, more left field. And it's great to see the chat that's going on. So fantastic! Thank you everyone for being here. Thank you panel. Thank you chat. As always, it's been an absolute pleasure doing this show. We will be back next week with more topics. Hopefully, the great gaming news will continue as it has been for quite a long time, particularly in the Xbox front, but also Sony seem to be up in their game lately as well, and it's always fantastic to see. So thank you everyone for watching, and we will see you on the next one.